You know, some people out there, when they talk, they fake the funk. You want brutally honest? Well, if you are brutally honest, look no further than CG Ruthless Sports.
CG Ruthless.
CG Ruthless Sports.
CG Ruthless.
If you want your sports talk to be brutally honest, come check out CG.
CG Ruthless.
If you're not watching CG Ruthless, I don't know what to tell you. Representing the Niner Empire.
CG Ruthless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 49 Karat Podcast. How y'all doing?
I'm pumped. That intro was fire, man. That
It sure
got me
is.
ready for some
that was
brutally
dope.
honest takes.
Yeah, and tell me where the audience can find you through social media platform. I mean, it's great to have you guys. Long overdue.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We are on Twitter, 49 Carats Podcast at 49K Pod, and we're also on YouTube. If you see my better half's username below me at Stragasaurus, you can find us on YouTube under her username. And yeah, subscribe, and we're available anywhere you listen to podcasts. So Spotify, Apple. Yeah, we record every Monday, and we're happy to be here on a Thursday with you.
Oh, I appreciate it. I'm happy to have you all in the show too. I mean, it's amazing that I've seen you guys come around. Your channel's been growing slowly, and it's amazing that when I see you guys do your streams, you got some good topics. And I'm just amazed how you guys are analyzing a little here and there. So, like, what do you feel about this matchup with Seattle? Do you feel it's a trap game, or do you feel like this is a chance for us to destroy them?
I think it could potentially be both, right? Like, you can't overlook the Seahawks. I know they haven't been doing bad, so obviously I'm excited about that, but you can't just assume that, we're going to blow them out or anything like that. So,
yeah, and we, previewed this matchup on our last episode, and we were talking about it, of course, and something I said was, it's never a given when you're going to Seattle. That's one of the most difficult places in the NFL to play, let alone when they're your division rival. It's going to be extra loud. But, then I went and looked back, and I totally forgot we beat them there in 2019. It is possible. So especially with the team, or with the way that this team is rolling right now, and given the Seahawks struggles this season, I think it is definitely a chance to kind of sock it to them and make them feel like crap.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of games where it can go down to the wire and all that stuff. So, like, even though the record kind of doesn't say much about them, but they still have Russell Wilson. Even with a broken finger, I still think he can be the most effective quarterback, even at this point, especially against us. I mean, we just made Colt McCoy look like a world beater that like a few weeks ago. So what imagine what Russell Wilson could do with just a broken finger. I don't know.
Yeah, it's easy to say that though, but then because I know I totally went into that Rams game with the lowest expectations on Monday Night Football. I'm like, it's Matt Stafford. I think honestly that was the beginning of the end for what we've seen so far from Matt Stafford this season, and he hasn't really played well since then. So, I mean, anything is possible, even if it's Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's pretty possible. Okay, what are you gonna say?
my concern is with the corners, in particular, Josh Norman. It's great that he's able to force fumbles and all that, but we saw him get kind of cooked going against Justin Jefferson. And, obviously this is going to be a tough matchup as well. So I could definitely see Russ exploiting that matchup a bit. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. DK Metcalf is actually on my fantasy team. And if he puts up another 1.8 points this weekend, that's fine with me. But I have a feeling, they're going to be going hard at our secondary. I mean, why wouldn't you? That's probably the most glaring hole on the team.
Yeah, especially with Josh Norman leading the team with penalties, a lot of PIs. He gets burned from time to time. He's not the same exact player. And I mean, no offense to Josh Norman, but if you can exploit that guy, free yardage. That's what I look
Yeah.
at when I.
Pretty much.
Yeah, even if even if his coverage was better, you still have to throw on him just on the off chance that he's going to give you a first down, right?
Pretty
Which is
much.
sad.
Yeah, and Metcalf being as large as he is, like I think that's gonna be tough. But we'll see. Hopefully, like our pass rush can be effective. I saw other people besides Bosa step up a bit in last week's game, so I feel like that's promising, but definitely gonna need a similar or even better performance from them this week against Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially that pass rush. But then if we just rush into Russell, we know he can just scramble out of the pocket and get those chunk of yards. That's the only concerning factor. But besides Nick Bosa, he's been the best player on our pass rush. And what do you think? Possibly defensive player of the year or comeback. It could be one or the other, you know? It's like,
Can it be both? Yeah.
well, it might just go to Dak Prescott because he's making a remarkable comeback. But Bosa, I think he's making a strong argument for defensive player of the year.
I think so. And one thing I keep telling Angie is that, like, if the 49ers keep winning, then it really raises the case nationally, right? Because people just pay attention to the teams that are popular, right? And so if they continue winning and he continues, the type of performances he's been having, then yeah, I think he's definitely a shoe-in for at least one of those.
Yeah, and you're starting to do really well or get on a hot streak when national media is throwing out terms like Super Bowl run, no matter what context, the fact that it's even a possibility. And I saw Deebo Samuel did an interview this week where he said like his prediction was a Super Bowl run. So it's like, I mean, Steph is best. I am not one to get my hopes up or have any high expectations. I like to keep them low, but man, I mean, they look pretty good right now. So yeah.
My approach is one game at a time. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most interesting part of Deebo Samuel was I never thought this guy would just come into the CBS Sports and just put it out there like, oh, I predict us winning the Super Bowl. And I'm like, okay, you're starting to make us look like a bunch of Cowboy fans out here. Come on, man.
Oh, never that. I don't think we'll ever be that bad. We always can go back and say at least we're not Cowboy fans, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But so okay, as far as this matchup with Seattle, which I agree with what Brian Chung was saying, we definitely cannot take them lightly at all. And I'm a little worried about the way they can play because they can play spoilers. They're pretty much out of the playoff race. So it's like when you got nothing to play for, it makes that team dangerous.
Well, did you see what Pete Carroll said about signing Adrian Peterson?
Win now?
Yeah, apparently they're in win now mode.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I'm pretty sure there was a ratio on that tweet of everyone just quote tweeting it saying win now, like win when, what?
Right.
So that's funny. Yeah, they're definitely gonna have a chip on their shoulder, like especially in a season like this. The one silver lining that they could walk away with is sweeping the 49ers. So they're gonna want that, and exactly what you just said. They can play spoilers, and what is better than diminishing your league rivals' chances of making the playoffs? I mean, we all are sports fans and we know how these crazy rivalry games can get, especially when there's something on the line. So that's a great point. And I think, yeah, they're going to be there to play this weekend.
Yeah. They'll be pumped up for sure.
Yeah, they're just going to be spoilers, just like how we were with the Rams before. And the Rams were always the team we always had the numbers, but Seattle has our numbers for quite some time. But the one interesting factor that could benefit us against Seattle is running the ball with Elijah Mitchell. Last time we played Seattle, we didn't even have Elijah Mitchell. So
yeah,
what can it be like with just Mitchell against that Seattle's run defense? We'll find out.
And yeah, Kyle recently, at the beginning of this win streak, I mean, we'll take it back all the way maybe to the Bears game. They remembered, a little bit more what their offense is all about, and that's running the ball. Actually, did they run a lot against the Bears? Was it really like a couple weeks later against the Rams.
I think they were. I think they were starting to a little bit more, but
which is
it definitely
insane.
it was.
I don't like to talk about it, but yeah, they're back to their identity this time around. They're not the same team that they were when they played the Seahawks earlier this season. So we do have that to look forward to.
Yeah, because we've kind of like had a chance to hold on to Seattle, and we had a chance to score. So I think this time around we're gonna play with some more urgency out there, because the game against the Rams, they were already picking us like not picking us, but doubting us, and we had nothing to play for. But then again, we were just 3-5. Our chances of making the playoffs were pretty much in jeopardy, but things were against us, stacked against all odds. We played with some inspiring, but then the media is saying, well, the Niners have the Rams number. I don't know. Oh, it's the Jaguars. The Jaguars ain't that good. Oh, the Vikings. Okay, they just weren't caught at a good timing. I like those excuses they come up with.
Yeah, it's crazy to think going from 3-5 to 6-5. Like, that's such a big difference, and to think that they could be, 3-8 after these past 3 games, and the difference and the way that they really stepped up has been incredible. And just that win against the Vikings, if they would have lost, it would have, like, I don't know what the percentage would have been, but it jumped by 20% their chances of making playoffs just by that one win. So yeah, every game definitely counts right now, and it's crazy that we're even talking about like the chance of them going to playoffs given where we started.
Yeah, pretty much. But like the chances of that, we were just worried about just maybe just one game at a time. But now it's like those talks are coming out. They're just coming out there. Now they're starting to praise us a little bit here and there. I'm like, keep that same energy, please. Like, we liked you when you guys were saying some stuff about us, but now it's like, oh, they're glorifying Jimmy like he's something good, and now they're talking. But before that, he wasn't doing squat. Now they're praising him.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like it feels like they have a swagger back to them, though. Like, Debo's comments obviously come from a place of like being confident in the team, and I think that's a good thing, because that's what they had in 2019. And not that we're necessarily trying to replicate that same feeling, but it's nice to know that they're in a similar place now, and they're confident in themselves.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what you're saying, that everyone is kind of like thrusting up Jimmy G on this pedestal, when really it's been a team effort from top to bottom. And yes, Jimmy is absolutely doing his job, being efficient like he was in 2019. He's not going out there and passing for 250 yards a game, but they're still winning, and they're rushing for almost that many yards a game. So it's all working out, and it's really, really nice to see. But I did see a graph today. I believe David at Backcountry Fam tweeted it out, and it was that the 49ers rank last in the league this year passing on early downs by a lot. Like, they are not passing on early downs, and I thought that was really telling.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, the stats don't really like say much about those early downs. Like, if we were just to have a good early down efficiency, I think we would be more unstoppable. But on those third downs now, lately on third down plays, we've been able to execute a lot better lately. So it's like the way we've been moving the ball, time of possession, the first drive, we've been kind of putting up some numbers when it comes to like killing 10 plus minutes on those drives. So that's amazing. Like, before we would be 3 and out.
Well, yeah, and rushing on those early attempts is, a big part of that third down conversion rate that you're seeing Jimmy be so successful at now, because, we're getting 5-6 yards on first down thanks to the rush, and now he's only having to, he chucks it over a receiver's head on second down, and then he's just got to do third and short the next play. So it's benefiting everyone, the offense, that they finally decided to start running, and we're seeing that in Jimmy Garoppolo's completion percentage, his accuracy, and it's just been an overall improvement.
Right, which short yardage is his bread and butter. So
yeah.
So yeah, it definitely works out for him.
Yeah, it does, for the fact that the running game's been helping him, and it's kind of been the only reason why we've been going further. Like, if you forget about the playoffs, like, he didn't even have to do much running the ball. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were able to run the ball against Green Bay, and he didn't have to throw as much. So that was the easiest thing he ever did, was maybe complete maybe a few passes and then just have that running game go for 200 plus yards.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like peak 49ers, that NFC championship game for sure.
However, you got to win, man. Like, I don't care how they win, as long as they win.
Absolutely.
It can be an ugly performance and we still get the win. Just like that Steelers game, when the Steelers weren't playing that great, we were still playing terrible at that performance, and we were able to still come away with the win. That Washington game was like kind of telling that those 9-0 game was kind of tricky, but it made us like character that we got it done.
Yeah. Adversity. I think it's funny. It's so depressing as a Niner fan right now. We have to go back to like 2019 to talk about, like, 2020 did not exist. Like, we don't talk about it. If we don't talk about it, it never happened. But it's funny. I was at the Packers game and I was at that Steelers game, which is funny. Those are the two games that we talk about, and there were two great games to be at. That was 2019 was something else, man.
It really was.
Yeah, it was like the way the 2019 was. We just had a really good start. We started out the season 8-0, and then the rest of the season was storytelling from there. Then we had to finish out games on the wire and all that stuff. The way we started out the season, we were dominating. We were just dominating a lot of teams that people had us losing to. But then we got to relive that 2019. I don't know. It's a different team, different kind of. I like to see us as underdogs, because the Cardinals are the overhyped team. They're the one with the better record, and a lot of people are getting convinced by them. The Rams, for just a little while, it seems like everybody was getting into the Rams bandwagon a little bit and thinking that, hey, I think Jared Goff was the problem and Stafford is doing great, but it's not the case. The last few games, they've looked a lot terrible.
Yeah, they haven't won since they picked up OBJ, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. They said we're all in. And, like, you know, that tweet they tweeted, they said we're all in, and they have not won since then.
Well, it's funny, that tweet, that guy that they tweeted that gif of that's saying I'm all in, he ends up losing that game of poker. So kind of foreshadowing there that they used that gif.
The intern probably didn't know.
Yeah, right. But that's probably where the curse came from, and now it's just, you're gonna lose the game of poker.
Yeah, and then the fact that OBJ's dad made a tweet video about Stafford, that's not a good sign. That's kind of like, oh, here we go with this deja vu, just like the Cleveland days.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. He made another video?
No, he did like a video about Stafford, like when we were playing that Monday night game.
Okay, I thought that he did that about Baker Mayfield.
No, that was just like a similar situation. I think he was criticizing him too on Twitter, like when he was with the Browns, but he's doing the same with Stafford, but it's kind of been quiet now.
That's crazy. Yeah, you're not helping anything.
Right. That's why I was never really a fan of OBJ coming here to begin with. Like, he's been doing the same. It's the same thing with him every year on every team that he's been on. It's just, I don't know.
It's toxic.
Locker room. Yeah, he's like a locker room cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if everybody thought that AB was worse, I guess you haven't seen what OBJ can do. It's like both of them are very worse, but I think when it comes to somebody like a Tom Brady, that's when you can calm down somebody like an OBJ, but we don't have that kind of leader. So it's like, if you can have somebody like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers to put somebody like OBJ in check, then you should be in good hands, but we don't have it. So Jimmy's like that average guy. He's not gonna be like the way Tom Brady is. He's not gonna be like an Aaron Rodgers. He's just gonna be like a regular dude that acts like he's all that.
Yeah. That's like the perfect description of Jimmy. He's just a regular quarterback. Just a regular dude. Just throws it sometimes, hands it off a lot. He's just himself.
Yeah, he definitely
you know
does.
what you're getting. Yeah.
Yeah, the team loves him though.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, the locker room does, and it speaks volume about him. Like he doesn't have to put on the 300 plus yards like most people want in fantasy football. As long as he gets you the wins, they can even be like 180 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns and maybe 1 or 2 picks, and you're still going to get a decent game out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like we said, as long as they're winning, sure. I mean, I was at the beginning of the season when I thought the season was a bust. I'm like, why aren't we playing Trey Lance? But just like Kyle said, as long as they're in the playoff hunt, Jimmy G is going to be the quarterback. And, as time goes on, I'm like, all right, let's just roll with this thing, see if we can run our way to another Super Bowl, I guess. That's the plan. So that was the plan in 2019. And then for some reason, they abandoned that plan halfway through the Super Bowl, ended up losing. So I guess they just want a second shot at that and running the ball a lot. But it works, so. What can you do?
Yeah, that's what it was, but it was then. But now that we can get on to like what the plans are, but Shanahan's starting to realize what's working now. Before he would just try to be too cute, but now the last few games it's been running the ball now, so whatever works. But some teams have said if you just stack the box and slow down that running game, that's where Jimmy becomes like he's not going to do what he did like that Saints game, but he's just going to cause turnovers or play scare or something. But if you just let the running game go with it, it's his bread and butter, just like you said, Strangosaurus. Like that's how Jimmy is built by this running game, this solid defense. Doesn't have to be a great offensive line as long as he has a little time in the pocket to throw, and then he'll be all right.
Yeah, and that was a big reason why they won the Vikings game is that they ended up, winning the turnover battle. And Jimmy did throw a pick, but luckily the defense was able to step up and force turnovers of their own and get the ball back in the Niners' hands, which, they only won by 1 score. So that turned out to be super valuable. Could have won by more than 1 score if Robbie Gould would have made that last field goal, but he did work that game, so can't fault him.
Well, I was going to say too that Jimmy is getting the ball out quicker, which like you said, that also kind of limits, I guess, him looking bad. Like him getting the ball out quick is a good thing because then the offensive line, can just keep him clean for 2 seconds or 3 seconds.
He has to be the worst quarterback under pressure that I've ever seen. It's close between him and Derek Carr.
Just start his feet just start pitter pattering, and it's not
like
good.
He'll do some little dance moves to get out of there, whereas Derek Carr just like folds into a little ball. So I love the effort, but it's sometimes it's just like, damn, that's embarrassing, dude. That looks so bad.
Yeah, it does when he has to hold on a little longer. But if he just has a quick pass, just a few seconds, that's it. But sometimes he holds onto that ball, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing, Jimmy? Don't you know you can just get rid of the ball? You're taking away the yardage back.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I do expect the Seahawks to put pressure on him. They're gonna try. I hope that Jimmy could continue to get the ball out quickly, but we'll see.
We shall see. For the X factor of this matchup, who does Jimmy need to rely to? Let's say Seattle does focus on Ayuk. Who would you want to take the X factor, to be the guy, the vocal receiver that nobody's going to even mention? Let's put a sleeper. We know Debo's going to be out. We know people are probably forgetting about Kittle, but hey, you can never rule out Kittle in this passing game because he hasn't been targeted as much. But then you got this unheralded guy, Juwan Jennings and Trent Sherfield. Which one's going to be the X factor? That's the question.
Yeah, Steph, you want to go first?
Well, okay. Well, if we're going with an underdog, because I would say Kittle, actually, because he is going under the radar a little bit these last few weeks. And I think part of that is because Debo has just been so good. He's kind of overtaken Kittle as Garoppolo's security blanket a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that one play last week where Kittle was wide open and he targeted Debo, who was covered, and he sailed it over his head. But if we're talking underdog, I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing from Juwan Jennings these last few weeks. he just looks like a guy who's ready to step up and take on a bigger role. And yeah, I'm curious to see like what they do creative wise to kind of, I don't know. I feel like they're very creative with the way they use Deebo Samuel, and I think it's going to be a group effort to kind of, you know, fill that hole. It's a big hole to fill.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we talked about. Like, is Ayuk going to be put in that wide receiver running back role? Because they have done that with him a few times this year where he's taking handoffs in the backfield. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, like 100% what Steph said, given especially this last week's performance, Juwan Jennings has to be the guy to step up to me, but also depends on how the Seahawks are covering them and, you know, what Jimmy's able to see on the field. I feel like coming into the game, the guy that you're going to assume is going to be the guy, exactly like Steph said, is George Kittle. But, you know, obviously the Seahawks watched the game on Sunday and they know that Juwan Jennings had a day, had a touchdown, and that he's, you know, a legit target now for Jimmy Garoppolo too. So it'll be interesting to see who actually does emerge as the of the game, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I got a good feeling about it. Like you said, Kittle hasn't really been much target, so it's like that could be the one X factor because the offense was mostly getting more involved with Deebo, and then Ayuk started coming around, and then people keep forgetting about Kittle. He's been a good blocker. But Juwan Jennings has come around slowly, and it's kind of showing here and there. If he gets some targets, if Juwan Jennings can get a lot more targets, I feel like this guy has a ceiling of breaking out against the secondary. Because the one thing that Seattle doesn't do well is against these physical receivers. And a guy like Juwan Jennings, he can really out-physical that secondary. He can win the contesting catches. I don't know about separating, but if it comes down to it, he'll win those 50-50 balls on those DBs more than likely.
Yeah,
right.
I definitely
I wouldn't
agree.
even be surprised if we see Juice get a little bit more run in this game.
I was going to say that, but I was like, no, that's dumb.
He's not as fast, but like he can run some routes sometimes too. And
well, he's also an amazing hurdler, you know, or high jumper, as we saw on Sunday. We forgot to talk about that. I said, I forgot what I said.
To jump over like 5 guys
was, but that was, dude, that was hilarious. Oh my, like, I was laughing. The announcers were laughing. Like, I think he was laughing. That was great. I love him.
Yeah, Juszczyk is an unknown factor because he doesn't get a lot of those targets every now and then. But I feel like that's the X factor too, because the fullback, I mean, it's the very least popular position. Before that, it was such a thing where you needed an extra blocker there. But now it's like you can just use double tight ends and maybe just another player to like an extra blocker, and that's it. Because they said that fullbacks are like dinosaurs in today's football, but Juszczyk is still like usable in today's NFL. So it's like,
oh yeah, yeah, he's like the complete Swiss Army knife to me. You know, he can catch, he can pass. I mean, can he pass? Has he ever?
I'm doing the both. I don't know. But he was a tight end coming out of college.
Put him in the Wildcat now.
Now
don't tell Jason.
I mean, he was a tight end coming out of college, and they just moved him to fullback. Kind of like how we had Bruce Miller, who was a D-line or a tight end in college, and then they moved him.
Bruce Miller. My God, what a guy! And he had to go beat up an old man.
Jesus Christ, I forgot about that. Oh my God.
He had to convert positions.
Who the hell does that?
Him.
A lot of the incidents, they kind of killed a lot of our team characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was quite the time.
Yeah, it was, dude. Yeah. Just year after year, day after day, blow after blow. Like, oh, this player's retiring. Oh, this player beat up an old man. Oh, this player's retiring at age 25. Like, it was great. Great times.
Oh, like Chris Borland. Oh my God. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
concussions right there.
He was our
Dude, I
future.
get it.
He was our
Yeah,
future,
I
man.
know. I get it.
Yeah, he had tackles. He would make up for that intangible stuff and all that slow time, whatever he had. He was able to make tackles. And then you had a guy like Anthony Davis. How many times has he retired?
Yeah.
Like, we paid you to be our tackle, and then you retire.
Yeah. That's hilarious. He
Like,
had
I
it
don't
rough.
know. Yeah, like he was the guy coming out of shape out of Rutgers too, and he wasn't all the way committed. They were
Yeah.
questioning his work ethic a little bit.
Great draft picks, they just
Size.
know how to find them.
Hey, Reuben Foster came late, but he was a troublemaker. I mean, that guy was something.
Yeah.
I mean, he had talent. That's one I don't fault them too much for, because like he was
you know?
talented. How do you know he did have some? There were some red flags.
Whatever.
Just
Nothing,
forget about it.
nothing concrete, nothing innocent until
Oh,
proven
God.
guilty. Anyway.
Yeah, like they say in the court of law, but like there was a lot of good talents that we had a lot of hits and miss because of their off the field. But I feel like it wasn't their fault in general; it was their decisions they made. But like Alden Smith he had great talent, just wasn't in the right mind to stay out of trouble, or
Yeah.
else he would have been one of our best defenders by far.
Which is crazy
Oh,
because
yeah.
he still isn't. He had a chance to come. Was that this year?
He was cut by
One of the
Seattle.
games- Yeah. He
Oh,
and
that
then he
was-
got in trouble
oh, yeah.
again, which was insane. I was so upset. Sucks.
He had a good year with the Cowboys last year, so I
Yeah.
really thought he was going to be like coming back.
Yeah.
I would have thought he would have turned around his career, but boy, was I wrong. Like I
Yeah.
thought, hey, maybe he might be okay after all. Sometimes a change of scenery and a change of fresh starts always get the best out of people. So it's like sometimes it just didn't work out, but you can always redeem yourself and play better elsewhere. But when it comes to other players that we've taken chance with, like there's just been some guys that weren't given the fair chance and weren't used the right way. So when I look at a certain player that we just signed this offseason, he was only here just to compete for playing time and all that stuff. We invested in Samson Ebicom, which we thought he would have been something, but Arden Key's kind of like doing a lot better than what he was with the Raiders. So it's like he's come along and he's kind of shown out here and there.
Yeah, it just goes to show, like, when critiquing draft picks, when critiquing, signings, when critiquing trades, like, dude, anything can happen at any given moment. Some are going to hit and some are going to be a bust. It's the same with every single team in the NFL. If teams were hitting on every single draft pick, then the league wouldn't be competitive. There'd be, it's not possible. So it's funny to me when people get all bent up out of shape over draft picks and stuff, which, like, I get it because it's so easy. Hindsight is 2020. You can critique things all day when you know what the case is, but when you're picking people, you don't know what's going to end up happening. So that's just funny to me when people go off about that. And I go off about it sometimes. It's understandable.
Yeah. Well, even the team that they're drafted to, like, that context matters, right? Like,
Mhm.
I know it's not the greatest example, but like Solomon Thomas, he underperformed, obviously, like his draft position, and I don't think even with the Raiders, he's doing better, I think, than he did with the Niners, but I still wouldn't say he's at his, like, he's really played to his draft position, but still it's good to see that he's, like, on a different team, he's doing better.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just a change of scenery that helps some guys.
Yeah.
It does for a lot of these players. Like, I mean, Arden Key wasn't reached his ceiling with the Raiders, and then the moment he came to us, it's like he has a change of the way the culture is and the way he's coached by Chris Kasarik. And then you look at Kerry Hyder, he hasn't done much for Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I had a feeling he
was looking good, like in the beginning of the season, I want to say, but like it just kind of tapered off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when you look at the expectations of Seattle,
Mhm.
we just have, we just got to beat them and then get on a roll. And I've heard that maybe Debo will come back this week the Bengals game. So it might be a
Okay,
possibility.
I was about to say,
No,
I'm
no,
like,
not
man,
this
I
week.
don't know.
No, not
I
the,
don't
not the
know
Seattle
about
game,
that.
but the Bengals game. It's 50-50 with Bengals.
Yeah,
'Cause
that
I
would be
think he's
awesome.
Yeah, and then the Warner will be back on Cincinnati game too. That's the most important game, I think, because that's the one team that people kind of look at and say, you know what, they are a good team. People were kind of listing them as the worst team in that division, but now everybody's kind of eating their words with Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati is the more better offense. Their defense isn't too bad. So if we can get those two guys back, there's some confidence there. But then again, can our secondary do good against that receiving core? Because they got Jamar Chase,
Yeah.
they got T. Higgins, and they just got Tyler Boyd. So it's like, oh, you got to pick your poison. And Joe Burrow hasn't looked too bad, but the fact that we're going to play Seattle, it gives us a better preparation of what we're going to expect from this type of receiving core they got. Because we know Tyler Lockett's good. We know DK, when he's at his best, he can be dominant. And the other receiver, what's his name, Freddie Swain or whatever they got out there, and their other tight ends, Will Disley and Gerald Everett. It's like a pretty interesting matchup. We're going to be able to face some really talented groups, but except for their running game kind of seems suspect.
Yeah, which is good news for the Niners. I mean, but yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's good that they're playing Seattle right before the Bengals. We're gonna be able to see just how well this defense holds up against, a heavy passing team. Yeah, I'm nervous about the Bengals game. We did our predictions for the last 6 games of the season, and I said that one's going to be really tough. I predicted a loss, but hopefully they can pull that one out too. But yeah, the Bengals look good. The Bengals are the definition of trust the process. It's all working out down there. Their picks are hitting. Like you said, Burrow looks not bad. Jamar Chase, I mean, while he overcame that terrible preseason that he had where everyone was kind of counting him out. So I love to see it. He's on my fantasy team, so it should be a good game.
Same. Same. Yeah, that matchup definitely stood out to us as like one in these next few games that we're like, yeah, I don't know about that one. The small but big thing is that they flexed the time, which definitely works in the 49ers' favor because it won't be an early game anymore. So
why did they flex
but they're
it?
good. I don't know. I was hoping they'd flex it to Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I'd want to see that on Sunday night.
That's why I don't understand why they do that. What was accomplished?
What was the reason?
Yeah.
What was even the reason? Like, you got two teams competing for a playoff spot. Like, for next week, the Bengals and Niners. Who wants to see that? Like, I mean, come on. Like, you're gonna put them at the 125? Come on. And those are two teams with Super Bowl histories, and both of them are competing for playoff spots.
I wonder who's playing Sunday Night Football that night. Like, who they would have to flex out.
I think it's between the Chiefs and some. I don't know, like whatever.
What's that date?
Oh,
the 12th?
Yes, I think it is the Chiefs.
Yeah, because they flexed the Chiefs on a matchup. I think it's on their division. I think it's either the Chargers or another team.
Oh no, the Chiefs are Sunday night this week because it's Chiefs and Broncos.
Oh, okay. So I must have got that one mixed.
People were saying like, "Oh, why don't
they flex that game Packers?" Out? It's the Bears and Packers.
That's my God, the Bears are trash.
I know, but it's like they want to get Aaron Rodgers yelling, "I own you" again. Everyone.
Nobody wants to see that. Like,
so
seriously.
Yeah, that's freaking lame.
I mean, they're flexing out a good primetime game where it can actually have two teams at stakes for. I mean, both of them are competing on their own conference for that spot. So it's like we're ranked at the 6th seed. We're just a little behind the Rams by 1 game. So it's like you look at it this way. We just got to take care of Seattle and we'd be all right. But I hope we beat the Bengals and make Chris Collinsworth cry. Ooh.
Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, and I definitely want to give a huge shout out to this Rams fan. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but he's got a little spirit. And we'll get you guys on the end of the game. But we got my boy Brian Chung. Who, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he does these little predictions. He's got something like interesting. I made the Dream's going to be my guest on the next show. But David's a follower and a loyal subscriber of mine. But definitely we need to make a statement. But for this matchup on Seattle, the one X factor I expect is Elijah Mitchell just has another 100-yard game. And Kyle Juszczyk, if he can be a factor, that's a huge bonus. But I feel like a lot of our passing game, I feel like we don't have to throw the ball as much as long as that running game is flowing, you know?
Hope so.
Yeah, I had a question for you guys because I saw this being discussed on the Twitter machine a lot. Do you think that Elijah Mitchell is being used too much? Do you think he's taking too much of the carries? Because I saw this argument that like Kyle Shanahan was going to run him into the ground and that he's going to get injured and that Jeff Wilson Jr. should already be, taking more snaps and carrying more of the workload. So I want to see what you guys thought.
Oh, like I was thinking the same way before because I was like even wondering, are they starting to overuse Elijah Mitchell because he's going to get wear and tear? He just got a fractured finger, but it doesn't look like he's got one, but it's a matter of another injury. So it's like I'm concerned. Can we just balance the running game? Jeff Wilson's a really good physical back too, but I'm wondering what's going on with Trey Sermon. Is he going to really miss some significant time? Because we could have used him at some point, but
yeah,
it's like we've been underusing him.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I think Trey Sermon is like one of the biggest WTFs of the season, to be honest, if you're asking me. Like from the healthy scratch before the game week 1 to now. I mean, to have traded up to pick him. They traded up for him, right?
From the Rams spot, yeah. From the 88 pick.
to trade up and pick him in the he was third round, right?
Third round.
Like double second guessing myself. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to play a lot more than he has. But it just goes to show how dominant Elijah Mitchell has been as a late round draft pick. And, again, there's another draft pick that hit. So they do hit. They do hit. It's just usually with the late round guys, which is funny.
Yeah, and then you look at Ivory Thomas. We drafted him pretty high in the third round. Then you got Diamado Lenore playing better. So it's like you said, it could be one or the other. And Aaron Banks, what has he done? We got him in the second round, but then you got Jalen Moore playing better.
What's he done?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah, but I mean, also, it's the NFL. That's like my response to that. I'm like, I'm sure it's hard to start in the NFL, and there's a lot of learning to do and stuff. So I don't know. I'm no coach.
Yeah. I think some of those players that we just mentioned just needed time. And I think some of them, and Kyle has even said this, that the plan wasn't for them to start this year. So if they're not starting next year, then I'm really worried, right? And then we can really start the bust conversations, I think, at that point.
Is that how you should be drafting, though?
No, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me about the corners because corner was always seen as a position of need this offseason.
Yeah, and they should have been prepared for injuries.
Exactly. It's like, I know you have Verrett, but he gets hurt a lot.
Mr. Injury, yeah.
You can't count on, your depth has to be able to play. But going back to really quickly about Trey Sermon, I think he is going to be out a while based on just what Kyle Shanahan said. I feel like he might be done for the season. But in terms of Elijah Mitchell and running him into the ground, I don't think they're using him too much. There's a lot of bell cows in the NFL. And to me, nothing has really struck me about Elijah Mitchell that he looks like someone who can't handle the load, right? Yes, he fractured his finger, but that's not an injury that's not an injury that tells me oh wow, he can't handle this. That's just
right. His body is under attack. No, I mean, right. He just got his finger stuck on something and it's not.
And he came back pretty soon.
Suck on that, Russell Wilson.
All-
To make a fair argument about that injury, the difference between Russell Wilson and Elijah Mitchell is Elijah Mitchell don't even have to throw the ball. So it's like he just has to hold the ball. They put like some protected. They put like a protected something on his fingers. So
No
yeah.
excuse.
We make
Russell Wilson
fun
should be able to throw with 4 fingers. I don't care.
we make fun of. No, you know why though? You know why we make fun of Russell Wilson?
He's so
Because
corny. He does it himself.
he had the most dramatic like comeback, story that he made himself. He like generated this like comeback story for himself. And he is kind of falling flat on his face. And of course, I probably just jinxed the team, so I'm gonna knock on him some wood.
Imagine being like a freelance videographer. I mean, I'm sure Russell Wilson has his own people, but like you get a call and it's like Russell Wilson, like, hey man, I have this vision. Like, I had a terrible injury. I want to make a comeback video, and you're just like, oh, cool, man. Like, what was the injury? He's like, I broke my finger. You're just like, all right. We'll make it happen, but like, dude, that kills me.
Oh my god, yeah,
Russell Wilson.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, no, I'm not worried about Elijah Mitchell really, and I was expecting Jeff Wilson Jr. to be more involved when he came back, but even when he got that extra playing time when Mitchell was out, he wasn't that efficient. Like, I was actually surprised. He doesn't seem like the same player. And I feel like, I mean, he was out for a long time, right? So he probably just still is ramping up to like game speed and just like how, he used to play. So, but no, I'm not too worried about Mitchell.
Yeah, I think people are acting like Jeff Wilson Jr. was gone for like a few weeks. like he should be bouncing right back. But yeah, that's not the case. It was a devastating injury. It was a long time out. And like, shout out to him for being on the field.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because Jeff Wilson was coming off of a meniscus injury, and usually that takes time to gain explosiveness and all that stuff. So when I was watching the way he was playing, I mean, what do you expect from a guy coming off that injury? It takes time for him to have that movement and that explosiveness. So, of course, he's probably going to average less than 3 yards a carry. But if you get him in the passing game, that's where he's a factor. That's where I feel like if you use him as a receiving back and all that stuff, maybe he starts gaining a little more of that explosiveness. But if you're going to run the ball with him, good luck with trying to. Yeah. So it's like that's the expectation of Jeff Wilson. He was coming off a meniscus tear injury without even no contact. That's the weird part. So it's like, yeah. So like that's why I'm not surprised by the way he's playing, because if you had to make those movements, would you kind of feel that you would be effective coming off of this injury? It takes time to shake it off a little bit.
Oh yeah. The PTSD, I'm sure, is like insane. I would feel like I'm gonna be snapping it with every step. I feel like I've never had a knee injury like that. So I can't even imagine, even though my knees are getting pretty bad in my old age, but
I mean, I played
for a few years.
Please. You're not 30 yet.
I played football for a while too, and I was recently just retired from semi-football. So it's been like the majority of these injuries start to toll you down, and you don't have the passion, and it starts to lowering it down. So it's like I've had similar injuries to like somebody like Joe Staley had. He had like a fractured fibula or something.
Jesus, yeah, can't even imagine.
It's no joke. It's no joke. Kind of like Derek Carr had too, that season-ending injury that year too.
Yeah.
But a lot of it has come down to these injuries. But I feel like Jeff Wilson, as soon as it starts to come in, I think he's going to start breaking out later in the season. But then we got JaMycal Hasty, so that's another guy. So, like, that's a forgotten factor is JaMycal Hasty.
So about Hasty, I have, like, pounded the table on Hasty, like, in the preseason. And, I've always been a fan of his. This year, though, he just doesn't seem as effective as I've seen him, like, in years past.
I agree.
Well, I mean, yeah, like in the beginning of the season, he was showing a little explosive plays. Then he got injured, so it's like I don't know what's going on with him. But like, it's crazy that our running game has been a non-factor, except for Elijah Mitchell's been the factor. So it's like without Raheem Mostert, right. I feel like Mostert's been our huge reason why our offense has been moving better. But Elijah Mitchell may not be exactly what Mostert is, but he's doing a decent job, like a Really good job.
Oh yeah, and don't forget about RB1 or RB 1.5, I guess, Deebo Samuel. Like, he's just been killing it as a running back, which is, I mean, we all knew he could run, but I feel like this is the first season we're actually seeing him like consistently used as a running back. He only had 4 receptions last game and like however many rushing attempts. So that's been pretty cool to see too.
Yeah, definitely is. So, like, that's the one thing about the running game. But as far as like predictions, like, what do you guys feel in this prediction with Seattle and San Francisco? I know this is kind of like a trap or maybe a possibility blowing them out, but it's like, personally, I feel like we should be able to beat them, even with these kind of lesser talent. But then again, you can't sleep on them. So I definitely have us winning by 7 points. It may not be the most popular fashion, but we have a hard time beating Seattle. So definitely 24-17, because I feel like as long as we're able to maintain this game and keep, because I know Russell's going to keep the game a lot closer. So you never know.
Damn. I hate making predictions.
You don't have to say a score though. You can just like.
I know.
I guess I jinxed it.
I make Angie go first.
I love saying a score though, because like in the 0.1% chance that I have of getting it right, if I do get it right, I'm like, yeah, even though I like totally just shot in the dark. I agree with you. I think it's definitely going to be I would say it's probably going to be a 1-score game. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, lower than we saw last week. Oh God, I can't go. You go, Steph. I gotta think about it.
Okay, I say the Niners win by 6. I think it only becomes a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Like, I think most of the game, the 49ers will be leading by 2 scores. And Russell Wilson's going to make it at least somewhat interesting towards the end.
That's a great guess, because
it happens every
time.
It definitely does. It gets interesting with him.
49ers.
Yeah, and we'll make Russell Wilson look like the old guy. That's the weird part. It's like, I don't know why we do it. We just make Colt McCoy look like a world beater, and Russell can just look like the old guy with just the broken finger. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're gonna start saying he's back and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like how they were talking about that beast mode back shit.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, yeah. But in all seriously, yeah, what were you guys gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna throw out my score prediction. I'm gonna say Niner. I think it's gonna be more than a 1-score game. It's gonna be Niners 24-14. Let's go.
Ooh, I like it. Nice. What do you think, Steph?
Oh, I just think, well, I don't want to give an actual score, but I think the Niners will win by 6.
Okay, so 6. You just won't say this. You just won't say the score, but you said it's by 6.
Also, I think at least one kicker is gonna miss a kick.
I know.
Is that safe to say?
I think that is a standard for any NFL game at this point, because kickers.
Because kickers.
Because kickers.
That's it. That's it. Because kickers.
Abolish them.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
What are you guys talking about?
No, but just looking forward to this game, but definitely appreciate you ladies on the show. Guess one of the guesses are trying to figure out what's going on with the next guest and all that stuff. I'm like, man, trying to finish everything and all that. And then you ladies are having a really good podcast and all those analysts and all that. Maybe down the road we can definitely collaborate. Maybe I'll go on your guys' channel.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you're free, let us know. We appreciate you having us on to Chat Niners today.
For sure. And definitely want to get in contact with Rocha too.
Yes, I got you. As soon as his dad recovers from COVID.
Don't forget about Rocha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get the big dog on the show.
Yeah, dude, I'm so upset that I'm not gonna see him this weekend, because I was like gonna ask him, like, because he has 25,000, maybe even more YouTube subscribers. Like,
he's got 42,000.
Oh my God. Okay.
Why haven't we gotten him on our show yet?
I don't
He's
know.
a big dog. He's bigger than Rombo and Grant combined.
He live streams games, and it's like, he's freaking hilarious. I love Rocha. Go check out Rocha Entertainment if you haven't.
All right. So definitely appreciate y'all. We're going to call it a day. But you ladies, like I said, CG Ruthless Sports is out, and 49er Karat is out. As always, go Niners.
Peace.
Go Niners.